The question was raised, how do we restructure this so that it snakes up instead of being set up like this? So there are a couple of ways of restructuring the data, but most importantly, you've got to look at what the order of your cells is. So let's kind of go back to the square grid. Move that aside. Sometimes what I like to do if I'm doing like a sort of like an insert function is I'll drop in like a little intermediary that only has like one connection that I need. I guess I don't need that one. So that way I can just plug it into one thing and it'll run that whole idea later. So what we're going to do is take a look at under display, vector, point list. We're going to take a look at these cells. So I'm going to go to surface analysis and pull this, plug that in. It's a little 1 to 5, 0. There we go. Okay, so the original data before it was flattened read like this: 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then back down to 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we can do this sort of a couple different ways. We have to make sure that we're flipping every other row. If you want it to snake, right, you want it to go up to here, then go to the next row over, then come back down to this side. So I'm going to do it the first way that comes to mind, and it may not be the most efficient way. But like I said, there are a whole bunch of ways you could do this. So my first thought is we can separate the list of lists into evens and odds, meaning like first row, third row, fifth row, and then second row, fourth row, sixth row, and then operate on them by reversing them, and then you can weave them back together. Okay, so I'll show you how to do that. Let's go to sets and list, and we're going to say partition list. This should let me do a pattern, size of partitions. Yeah, okay. So yeah, this is important, right? So the reason I chose partition list is because it allows you to do it in a very intelligent way, right? It asks you for the list that you're partitioning, which is this, and then it will ask you for the size of the list that you're partitioning, but you have to look at the data too. What we have is 3 numbers, 2 numbers, 3 numbers, and then more 2 numbers, right? So it's inconsistent. So what it's doing here with the list is it's separating them into 3s and 2s. That's the predefined pattern. What I want to do is separate them into groups of however many items there are. So you might think, since this pattern over here has lists of 6, or 7 actually, with the index, you might think that you can just put in a value of 1 and that would pull the entire first item. But it doesn't. It only pulls the first item in each row. So it's like index 0, index 0, index 0. And if you really want, well, no, that won't work that way. All right, so what I would do in this case is, and I'm going to test this. I think this is how this is going to work, but I'm going to pull my extent over and just make sure that that first row is actually the row that I want, right? So I want it to be this row right here, not the row of all zeros, if that makes any sense. So I'm going to test that by pulling a list item. With a slider of 0 to 1, or 0 to 7. Okay.
Did you use a shortcut to get that list item?
Yes, I just double clicked and typed it in.
Oh,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, you can search for anything that way. But I'm going to flatten this list going in. So if you look closely, the 0 here is highlighted green. You can't really see it very well on that screen, but when I go to the next one, see how it goes to 1, and then to 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then that one is the next one. So that is what should happen if this isn't flattened. I should have that row. Oh, it does have the row of zeros. Okay. So we need to flatten it, then partition it. So do you guys understand what I'm saying? So if I broke it up by partitioning it, and I said I want to break it up into groups of 6, it's taking the first 6 items from every list and grouping them together. But if I flatten it, actually, let me just flatten it at the output. When I flatten it, it's going to say 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and it still took that row. That's weird. Hang on. That shouldn't be the case. Check this out. That's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'm separating it into groups of 7. Partition it into... Maybe I'm using the wrong one. Hang on. Sets, list. Split list into separate parts. Oh, because I'm still... Wait. I'm still on the original list, though. Oh, that's why. I'm still on the original list. Hang on. Oh, no. It's still here. Hang on. All right. Sorry, guys. So what I inserted, I looked at... For some reason, that list wasn't behaving the way that I expected, and I still am looking at it like I'm a little crazy. But anyway, so what you can do, especially if you're working in a grid, right? A subdivided surface is going to behave differently than in a grid. Okay, I just want to throw that out there because grids have rows and columns. Subdivided surfaces are already pre-flattened, right? Like it's just going to read in the order that we saw before. But if you want to reverse the direction that these are going, so we originally had all of these zeros at the bottom, and we were able to select them going the way we didn't want to, which is going up that way, and then when it's not flattened, right, we have the row, not the column. You can actually flip the matrix before you do this operation. That's flip surface, sorry. Flipping the matrix will reverse the rows and columns. So that way, when you select it, you're actually selecting that row. Okay, does that make sense? So now I've got, basically I have 7 different lists of each column. So that's why it's going that way. So it actually should be, we don't want 7, we actually want, oh no. Yeah, okay, yeah, 7 is right. Okay, let me get rid of that. All right, so now that I've thoroughly confused you all, let me simplify it by reiterating that all I did here was add the partition list, and then I had to flip the matrix because it wasn't reading the way I wanted it to read. So now I've got these lists partitioned. What I need to do is pick and choose which of those lists I'm operating on. So we can do that using dispatch. Well, actually, there are a couple ways of doing it. Let's actually try Sift Pattern. So I'm going to plug this in, and it's going to read, I'm going to put in 0 and 1. Turn off multi-line data, 0, 1. There. So now I'm going to have some lists here. Oh, we don't want, let's use dispatch actually. Sets list dispatch. Yeah. There. The pattern is going to be true and false, so we're going to get, oh crap, hang on. You know what, I'm going to have to prepare this one. See, I told you it was a little difficult. Alright, so I don't really like doing it this way, and I know there's a more efficient way of doing it, but this one right here called bang, that's under tree, and it's called explode tree. So what it does is it allows you to take each of those branches and get them as a separate item. But this is one of those nodes, so notice how there are 7 rectangles in here now. If I go to surface and I plug that in, I'm getting the wrong one. There we go. So I don't need the flip after all. So the surface thing is just showing me one of those rows, but it has more anatomy to this node, so we can actually add as many as we need for all of these rows. Okay, so now we're going to get kind of a little dicey. It's a little bit of a manual exercise in this case, so if you're changing how many rows there are, you're going to have to go through like all this reconstructive stuff that I was trying to do and don't know how to do efficiently enough. So we're going to reorient this so that we have flipped lists. So I'm going to go to set list, and I'm going to say reverse list, and I'm going to do that on every other one. So this one, and this one. And then I'm going to go back into tree. I'm going to merge that tree again. Actually, one less. Like that. Wait. More. There we go. So this goes back here. This goes here. This goes there. This goes there. This goes there. This goes here. And this goes there. Like a big zipper. Whoops. Oh, yeah. No, that's fine. So what that did is it reconstructed it back into a very similar list. However, now if I flatten it, when I do a list item, and I do a slider of 0 to, I don't know, 100, plug that in, we're going to start here, snake our way up the first row, and now we're snaking back the other direction. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, so it's kind of a workaround. I didn't get you the most efficient solution, but now when you plug this in here, it should do the opposite. It'll snake up. Okay. So it took me a little while, but I got there. Yeah.
Do we use the same method as this one when we're creating like stairs and stuff?
You can, but you wouldn't need to necessarily snake it like that. Generally speaking, like with stairs, I wouldn't suggest having it going so far as to like turn a corner and have it go back up the other direction, because in your designs you never know how many stairs you're going to have or how much it's going to turn, if it's going to be 90 degrees or if it's going to be 180. So the smarter decision is to just use Grasshopper to make like one stair run that will very intelligently extend as far as your angled line goes, and then it'll just kind of calculate the stairs for you, calculate the railings, and then you just draw a line in Rhino along the edge of your stair slope, and it'll create it for you. That's my suggestion. We will do that at some point in this class. Okay. All right, any other questions? So every once in a while, you're going to see like big ideas like this that are sort of like one-offs and stuff. We're going to try to do it more intelligently than that. But the downside is if I increase this, it's going to not work for the last couple pieces, and then I have to add more of these. So, all right.